Hello guys, how are you? Do you know Ontario reopens its OINP immigration stream since July 6, 2020 in employer job offer in demand skill streams? Do you know which employment positions OINP wants to fill up within and outside of Canada? Do you know what are the requirements for employer job offers in demand skills streams? Do you know what occupations are included in the streams? You will get surprised once you will see the position OINP wants to fill up in Ontario. If not, if you don't know about all these things, if you don't have any answer about these things, then this video is absolutely for you guys. It's absolutely for you guys. Please keep watching till the end of this video. It's for your benefit. Thank you very much.
Ontario is reopening and expanding one of its provincial nominee program, PNP, streams on July 6. Ontario's employer job offer, in-demand skills stream will reopen on that date and will feature 13 additional employment positions located outside of the Greater Toronto Area, GTA, only. The purpose of this stream is to help address labor shortages in specific in-demand occupations such as in agriculture, construction, trucking, or personal support work. Workers inside and outside of Canada can apply to this stream. To obtain a provincial nomination under the stream, an immigration candidate must have a valid job offer and meet other eligibility criteria. How to be eligible? Candidates must obtain a full-time and permanent job offer, i.e. a minimum of 1,560 hours in a year and no end date of the position. The job must be in an eligible occupation inside or outside of the GTA. The job must fall under one of the following National Occupation Classification Skill Level C or D codes. NOC 3413, Nurse Aides, Orderlies, and Patient Service Associates. NOC 4412, Home Support Workers and Related Occupations, excluding housekeepers. NOC 7441, Residential and Commercial Installers and Servicers. NOC 7511, Transport Truck Drivers. NOC 7521, Heavy Equipment Operators, except crane. NOC 7611, Construction Trades Helpers and Laborers. NOC 8431, General Farm Workers. NOC 8432, Nursery and Greenhouse Workers. NOC 8611, Harvesting Laborers. NOC 9462, Industrial Butchers and Meat Cutters, Poultry Preparers, and Related Workers. Expanded Occupations. As of July 6, a job offer under the following NOC codes, also Level C or D, will be valid for this stream, as long as the job is located outside of the GTA. NOC 9411, Machine Operators, Mineral and Metal Processing. NOC 9416, Metalworking and Forging Machine Operators. NOC 9417, Machining Tool Operators. NOC 9418, Other Metal Products Machine Operators. NOC 9421, Chemical Plant Machine Operators. NOC 9422, Plastics Processing Machine Operators. NOC 9437, Woodworking Machine Operators. NOC 9446, Industrial Sewing Machine Operators. NOC 9461, Process Control and Machine Operators, Food, Beverage, and Associated Products Processing. NOC 9523, Electronics Assemblers, Fabricators, Inspectors, and Testers. NOC 9526, Mechanical Assemblers and Inspectors. NOC 9536, industrial painters, coaters and metal finishing process operators. NOC 9537, other products assemblers, finishers, and inspectors. Other requirements. Employers have numerous obligations. For instance, they must demonstrate the person they are hiring through this Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, OINP, stream is necessary to their business and they must pay them at or above the median wage level for the occupation. Immigration candidates must have at least 9 months of cumulative paid full-time work experience in the occupation they have received a job offer for. They must also have the equivalent of a Canadian secondary school, high school, education, or higher, and a minimum English or French language level of a Canadian language benchmark, CLB, of 4 or higher in each competency, reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Among other requirements include an immigration candidate demonstrating they have a valid license to work in an occupation that requires a license or other authorization in Ontario. About the OINP. Ontario operates the largest PNP in Canada since it has the country's largest population and economy. Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, has provided Ontario with a PNP allocation of 7,350 principal applicants in 2020. In addition, Ontario can nominate 250 temporary foreign workers in intermediate skilled occupations, NOCC roles. The Before you apply. 1. Make sure you meet the mandatory requirements. This stream has a number of mandatory requirements you must meet before you can apply. These include job offer requirements, what your job offer must include. Applicant requirements, what you need to have before you apply. Employer requirements, what your employer needs to have before you apply. 2. Understand the application process. Please note, you have to apply online through the OINP e-filing portal. It takes about 3 hours to complete the application. You do not have to complete the application in one session, you can save your work and return to it later. You must submit your application within 14 calendar days after you register or your registration will expire. If it does, you can re-register provided we are still accepting new registrations under this stream. You can complete the application yourself or have a representative complete it on your behalf. You have to pay to apply and the cost varies depending on where you will be working. You have to pay by credit card. We only accept Visa, Visa Debit, MasterCard, and MasterCard Debit. 3. Have your supporting documents ready. You also need to make sure you have all your supporting documents, in English or French, scanned and ready to upload when you apply. If you do not, your application will be returned as incomplete and your application fee will be refunded. Job offer requirements. To qualify under the employer job offer, in-demand skills stream, you must have a job offer in Ontario from an employer that meets the following requirements. Please refer to Section 4 of Ontario Regulation 422/17 and the Employer Guide for more details on each requirement. Important, in order for your application to be approved, the job offer must be effective the date that you are nominated by the OINP, if you are already working for the employer in the approved employment position, or if you are not, on the date you obtain a work permit and begin working in the approved employment position. This means that your employer must adhere to the terms and conditions in the job offer and begin paying you the approved wage once you are nominated and begin working. 1. Full-time and permanent. The job offer must be for a full-time and permanent position. Full-time means the job must be a minimum of 1,560 hours a year and a minimum of 30 hours of paid work per week. Permanent means the job must have no end date, also known as an indeterminate duration. Job offers that are seasonal and or contract based are ineligible. Note that your job offer will not qualify if it affects the employment of a person involved in a labor dispute. 2. Eligible occupation. The position offered can be in any location in Ontario, inside and outside the Greater Toronto Area, and must be in one of the following occupations in National Occupation Classification, NOC, Skill Level C or D. NOC 3413, Nurse Aides, Orderlies, and Patient Service Associates. NOC 4412, Home Support Workers and Related Occupations, excluding housekeepers. NOC 7441, Residential and Commercial Installers and Servicers. NOC 7511, Transport Truck Drivers. NOC 7521, Heavy Equipment Operators, except crane. NOC 7611, Construction Trades Helpers and Laborers. NOC 8431, General Farm Workers. NOC 8432, Nursery and Greenhouse Workers. NOC 8611, Harvesting Laborers. NOC 9462, Industrial Butchers and Meat Cutters, Poultry Preparers, and Related Workers. The position offered must be outside the Greater Toronto Area, City of Toronto, Durham, Halton, York, and Peel regions, and must be in one of the following occupations in National Occupation Classification, NOC, Skill Level C or D. NOC 9411, Machine Operators, Mineral and Metal Processing. NOC 9416, Metalworking and Forging Machine Operators. NOC 9417, Machining Tool Operators. NOC 9418, Other Metal Products Machine Operators. NOC 9421, Chemical Plant Machine Operators. NOC 9422, Plastics Processing Machine Operators. NOC 9437, Woodworking Machine Operators. NOC 9446, Industrial Sewing Machine Operators. NOC 9461, Process Control and Machine Operators, Food, Beverage, and Associated Products Processing. NOC 9523, Electronics Assemblers, Fabricators, Inspectors, and Testers. NOC 9526, Mechanical Assemblers and Inspectors. NOC 9536, Industrial Painters, Coaters and Metal Finishing Process Operators. NOC 9537, Other Products Assemblers, Finishers, and Inspectors. 3. Median wage level. The pay of the job offered must meet or be higher than the median wage level, for that occupation, in the specific region of Ontario where you will be working. To find the median wage, enter the NOC code of your job offer into the occupation search. On the next web page, enter the location where you will be working into the filter search. If you are already working in the position, the wage of the job offer must be equal to or greater than the wage level that the employer currently pays you in that position, in addition to meeting or exceeding the median wage level. These wage requirements do not apply if you have a collective agreement, a written contract between the employer and a union, in your workplace, that determines your wages. If you are paid an annual salary, your hourly wage can be calculated as follows. Deduct any bonuses or other discretionary benefits from the annual salary. Divide the remaining amount by the number of weeks of work per year, this will generally be 52 weeks. Divide this amount by the number of hours of work per week. The remaining amount is the hourly wage. The program does not consider remuneration by piecework, bonuses, commissions, vacation pay or non-financial compensation as comprising part of your hourly base wage. For position is necessary to employer's business. The position offered must be necessary to your employer's business. This means that the job offer must align with your employer's existing business activities and the position must be needed to maintain or grow ongoing business activity. 5. Work based in Ontario. The work you do while in the position of the job offer must occur primarily in Ontario. You or any member of your family may only hold or have held equity in your employer's business, either directly or indirectly if the equity was less than 10% or and only if it was obtained as part of the remuneration package as an employee. The combined total amount of equity held by you, or any of your family members, cannot exceed or have exceeded 10%. Note that a family member includes your spouse, common law partner and children under the age of 22, including their children. Applicant requirements. Before you apply, you must meet the criteria in 7 categories below. Please refer to Section 7 of Ontario Regulation 422/17 for more details on each requirement. 1. Work experience. You must have at least 9 months of cumulative paid full-time work experience, or the equivalent in part-time work, in Ontario, in the same in-demand occupation, same NOC code, as your job offer. You must have gained this work experience within the 3 years prior to submitting your application while legally living and working in Ontario. Cumulative means the work you've done must add up to 9 months, it does not have to be 9 months of continuous work. Full-time work experience means working in a job with at least 30 hours of paid work in a week that amounts to at least 1,200 hours of paid work over a 9-month period. Part-time equivalent work experience means working in one job for at least 15 hours of paid work in a week that amounts to at least 1,200 hours of paid work over an 18-month period. Or working in more than one job for at least 30 hours of paid work in a week for 9 months that amounts to at least 1,200 hours of paid work in that 9-month period. Vacation periods, regular sick leave and other standard paid leave entitlements as provided for in collective agreements, workplace legislation, and/or individual employer policies are not considered interruptions to full-time employment. Extended leaves are considered interruptions to full-time employment and are not to be included in the calculation of work experience. If you are using periods of self-employment, you will need to provide employment documentation that is independently verifiable through third parties. This can include client reference letters indicating your duties and periods of work, as well as evidence of ongoing payments to you personally, for the services provided, e.g. invoices. Please also note that your hours of self-employed work must be quantifiable to ensure that you accumulated at least 1,200 hours over 9 months of employment. Reference letters from yourself, your business partners and/or a family member are not accepted by the program. 2. Valid license or other authorization, if applicable. If your job offer is for an occupation that requires a mandatory license or other authorization in Ontario, you must hold a valid license or authorization from the appropriate regulatory body in Ontario when you apply. For more information on licenses and authorizations in Ontario, please visit the Ontario's Jobs and Employment website or the Ontario College of Trades website. 3. Language. You must be able to understand, read, write, and speak either English or French at a Canadian Language Benchmark, CLB, Level 4 or higher. To prove that you have the mandatory language skills, you must take an approved English or French language test before you submit your application to the stream. The test must not have been taken more than 2 years from the time you submit your application. For English tests, we accept International English Language Testing, IELTS, we only accept the General Training Test. Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program, CELPIP, we only accept the General Test. For French tests, we accept Test d'évaluation de français pour LE Canada, TEF Canada. Test de connaissance du français pour le Canada, TCF Canada. Learn more about the English and French language tests. For education, you must have a Canadian secondary school, high school, diploma or credential, or its equivalent in another country. If you completed your studies outside of Canada, you need to get an Educational Credential Assessment, ECA, that proves your education is equivalent to a Canadian high school diploma. The assessment must be done by one of the following organizations, designated by IRCC. Comparative Education Service, University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies. International Credential Assessment Service of Canada. International Credential Evaluation Service. International Qualifications Assessment Service. World Education Services. Each organization charges a different fee and has different processing times. Please review the website of each ECA organization to choose the one that's best for you. You must give us a copy of the ECA report when you submit your application. The report cannot be more than 5 years old at the time you submit your application. We must be able to confirm your ECA results with the organization that completed it. This means you must authorize the organization to share the results with us, the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. To authorize us to see your ECA results from Comparative Education Service, fill out a consent form, PDF. World Education Services, order a copy of your ECA report online and indicate the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program as the recipient of the report. Note: for the other organizations, no additional steps are required. Please contact the ECA organization directly if you have any specific questions about the process for getting an ECA or how to authorize and share your ECA results with us. You must authorize the organization to share the results of your assessment specifically with the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, OINP. Authorizing the organization to share the results of your assessment with IRCC is not sufficient for the purposes of your application to 5. Intention to live in Ontario. You must intend to live in Ontario after you've been granted permanent residence. We determine this by examining your ties to Ontario, which can include doing things such as working or having worked here, getting job offers, applying to or interviewing for jobs, studying, volunteering, leasing or owning property, visiting, having professional networks and affiliations, family ties, and personal relationships. 6. Legal status in Canada, if applicable. If you are applying from within Canada, you must have legal status, a visitor record, study permit, or work permit, at the time you apply and should maintain that status until the time of nomination. You may apply if you are in implied status at the time of your OINP application submission. Implied status means that you submitted an application to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, to renew/extend your temporary status document, a visitor record, work permit, study permit, before its expiry date. You can remain in Canada and continue to work or study under the same conditions as your existing permit until a decision is made on your pending IRCC application. Employer requirements. Please refer to Section 4 of Ontario Regulation 422/17 and the Employer Guide for more details on each requirement. 1. General requirements. To qualify under the in-demand skills stream, your employer must have been in active business for at least 3 years prior to submitting your application, have business premises in Ontario where you will work, have no outstanding orders made against them under the Ontario Employment Standards Act, 2000 or the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Demonstrate that enough effort was made to recruit a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident prior to offering the position to you. This only applies if you are currently living outside of Canada or working outside of Ontario. 2. Revenue requirements. Your employer's business must also meet the following requirements for its most recently completed fiscal year, the year used for tax or accounting purposes. A minimum of $1 million in total gross annual revenue if you will work or report to work at a location in the Greater Toronto Area, City of Toronto, Durham, Halton, York, and Peel regions. Or a minimum of $500,000 in total gross annual revenue if you will work or report to work at a location outside the Greater Toronto Area. Meaning of report to work. In cases where the applicant will work at more than one location, the location where the applicant will report to work means the location where the applicant's immediate supervisor or manager works, or the location of the administrative office where the applicant will receive work assignments. 3 full-time employee requirements. Your employer's business must also have at the time of application submission at least 5 full-time employees who are Canadian citizens or permanent residents who work at the location where you will work, or will report to work, if you will work or report to work at a location in the Greater Toronto Area, City of Toronto, Durham, Halton, York, and Peel regions. Or at least 3 full-time employees who are Canadian citizens or permanent residents who work at the location where you will work, or will report to work, if you will work or report to work at a location outside the Greater Toronto Area. Meaning of full-time employee. A full-time employee is an employee who has worked a minimum of 30 hours per week. For employer form. Your employer must make an application for approval of an employment position by filling out and signing an employer form. Employer then must give you the form so you can scan and upload it with your application. When we assess your application, we may need additional supporting documents from your employer to validate information included in the employer form. Please read the employer checklist for a list of possible documents that may be requested. Supporting documents. You must provide supporting documents to validate the information in your application and to prove you meet the eligibility criteria. All supporting documents must be scanned and uploaded in your online application. Refer to the document checklists for the list of mandatory documents. If a supporting document is not in English or French, you must provide a copy of the document and a translation of the document. Please read document translation and notarization for more information. Remember, if you do not upload all the required documents, your application will be returned. Cost to apply. The application fee covers the cost of processing your application and is $1,500 if the job offer is outside of the Greater Toronto Area. $2,000 if the job offer is within the Greater Toronto Area, City of Toronto, Durham, Halton, York, and Peel regions. We only accept Visa, Visa Debit, MasterCard, and MasterCard Debit. Refunds. We will only refund the fee if we find that your application is incomplete or you withdraw your application before we start processing it. We will not refund the fee if your application is unsuccessful. You can check the status of your application through your account in the AINP refiling portal. Use a representative to apply. You may choose to appoint an authorized representative, such as an immigration consultant or lawyer, to provide advice or help with the application process and to act on your behalf with the AINP. If you wish to appoint a representative, they must create an account in the AINP e-filing portal and then submit your application through the portal on your behalf. Learn more about representatives and how to appoint one. Submit an application. If you are using a representative or you are a representative, the submission process is different. Read AINP representatives for information on how to apply. Before you start, make sure you and the employer meet all of the necessary requirements under the Job Offer Requirements, Applicant Requirements, Employer Requirements. Have your credit card ready. We accept Visa, Visa Debit, MasterCard, and MasterCard Debit only. Have your supporting documents, in English or French, scanned and ready to upload. Read the application instructions, important. Application instructions. Once you click Submit an application, choose whether you are a returning user or a new applicant. Choose the employer job offer, in-demand skills stream. If you are a new applicant, you must pre-register with your name and date of birth, not required if you are already registered. Log into your OneKey account. If you do not have one, click Sign Up Now. Once you've logged into your OneKey account, you will be sent back to the OINP e-filing portal. Create a profile in the OINP e-filing portal. Once you've completed your profile, click Finish and you will be sent to your main page in the e-filing portal. Click on the file number beside the employer job offer, in-demand skills stream to begin your application. Please note, it takes about 3 hours to complete your application. You don't have to do it all at once, but you must submit your application within 14 calendar days after you first register. Submit an application. After you apply. After you, or your representative, submit your application, you will get an email to confirm that we have received it. You can check the status of your application through your account in the OINP e-filing portal. For regular updates on processing times, read OINP application processing times and nominations issued. Withdrawing your application. To withdraw your application, click on the Withdraw button next to your file number on your main page of the OINP e-filing portal. Please note, we will only refund the application fee if you withdraw your application before we start processing it. Changes in personal information. You must notify us if there are any changes to the information provided in your application, including, but not limited to, changes in contact information, immigration status, expiration or change in work permit, family composition due to marriage or common law relationship, birth of a child, change of custody of a child, divorce/separation, death. You can make changes to your telephone number, email address and country of residence by logging into the OINP e-filing portal and clicking on My Profile on your main page. After the change has been made, click Save. For all other changes, or to correct a data entry error, example you misspelled your name, complete and save a change of personal information form. Send the completed form by email as an attachment to ontarionominee@ontario.ca. Use the subject line Application Change Notice, file number. If you are requesting a correction to your name or date of birth, please also include a copy of the personal details page of your passport to validate your request. Please note, we will not accept requests to completely change a name or date of birth. If you do not notify us of any changes to your personal information, it could impact the outcome of your application. If you are nominated. If your application is successful, you will receive a nomination approval letter, a work permit support letter and a nomination certificate by email. Once we notify you, your next step is to apply for permanent residence to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, within 6 months. You will need to include your nomination approval letter and nomination certificate. Note, a nomination does not guarantee approval of your application for permanent residence with IRCC. You may request an extension of your nomination certificate if you applied to IRCC but your application for permanent residence was returned due to being incomplete, or you were delayed in gathering supporting documents, e.g. police criminal record check, for your application for permanent residence. Only requests that comply with the above requirements will be granted. You can request an extension by emailing the OINP at ontarionominee@ontario.ca with the following information: a letter of explanation describing the reason to extend your nomination certificate, a copy of the incomplete letter from IRCC, if applicable. Your work permit support letter may be used to apply for a work permit from IRCC while your application for permanent residence is being processed. Your work permit support letter is valid for 6 months. You may request an extension if your work permit is expiring and your application for permanent residence is still in process. Reminder: the job offer is effective the date that you are nominated by the OINP if you are already working for the employer in the approved employment position, or if you are not, on the date you obtain a work permit and begin working in the approved employment position. This means that your employer must adhere to the terms and conditions in the job offer and begin paying you the approved wage once you begin working. Approval of the nomination. Your nomination is subject to the following conditions until you receive permanent residence. You must continue to demonstrate on a reasonable basis an intention to reside in Ontario. You must be employed in the approved employment position as of the date of nomination if you are already working for your employer in the approved employment position, or if you are not, on the date that you obtain a work permit and begin working for your employer in the approved employment position. You must continue to be employed in the approved position of your job offer until you receive permanent residence. The following terms of the job offer must be maintained. Position title and duties. Wage. Hours of work. Work location. You must notify the OINP if there is a change in the nature of your employment, including any of the above. Changes in the position of the job offer. Your employer may offer you a promotion. You will need to notify the OINP and submit a revised job offer signed by you and your employer, your current work permit and your 2 most recent pay slips. If necessary, the OINP will issue you an updated work permit support letter indicating the new position. You must also notify the OINP if your employer withdraws the job offer, you decline the job offer or your employment is terminated either by you or your employer. The approval of the employment position and the nomination will be cancelled if you are no longer working for your employer. If you are not nominated. If your application is unsuccessful, we will let you know by email. If you think we made an error in our decision that led to your application being refused, you may ask for an internal review. To request an internal review, send an email to internalreview-revisionintern@ontario.ca. You must email us within 30 calendar days of receiving your notice of refusal if you live in Canada. 60 calendar days of receiving your notice of refusal if you live outside of Canada. In your email, explain how, on the date you submitted your application, you met all requirements. An error we made resulted in your application being unsuccessful. Do not include any new information that you did not include in your original application, unless that information was not reasonably available to you at the time you submitted your application. New information that you did not include in your application because of an oversight will not be considered. Internal review requests must be sent by email. We will not accept requests by mail, fax, or in person. Contact us. Ask us a question by email at ontarionominee@ontario.ca or by phone from Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at tel 416-327-0374. Toll free 1-866-214-6820, toll free within North America only. TTY 416-325-0866. Toll free TTY 1-866-853-2137. Technical problems. If you are experiencing technical issues with applying online, send us an email at ontarionominee@ontario.ca and include your file number, description of the problem, screenshot, if applicable, your full name and contact information. We will review your email and respond to you as soon as possible.